There was a new young Democratic president. The Republicans had gotten trounced by that Democrat in the last presidential election, but they set their sights on the midterms for getting back some of what they had lost. It was the year 1994, and Republicans did great in that first midterm election in Bill Clinton's first term. It's a nearly ironclad rule of politics that the first congressional election after there's a new president, in that election the opposition party picks up seats. Call it buyer's remorse, call it the swinging back of the pendulum, it doesn't really matter, it's just what happens, essentially every time. But in 1994, it happened in a way bigger way than usual. There were 81 Republican freshmen in the House and Senate in the class of 1994. It was the Republican Revolution. Time magazine in November 94 put this rampaging GOP elephant on its cover. Notice how it's not just a rampaging elephant, it's a rampaging elephant stomping on a Democratic donkey so hard the donkey's eyeballs are exploded out of their donkey eyeball sockets. Nice, right? The Republican Revolution of 1994 also earned Newt Gingrich this Man of the Year cover from Time magazine in 1995. And then pretty soon after that, the Republican Revolution class of 1994 started to become famous for more than just politics. They started to get famous for flaming out, for catastrophic and often career-ending scandals of a sexual, ethical, and/or criminal nature. Barely a year after the whole Man of the Year thing, for example, Mr. Gingrich himself was ordered by the House to pay a $300,000 ethics penalty in an investigation over misuse of tax-exempt funds. He was nearly forced out as Speaker. He then quit as Speaker and quit Congress altogether in 1998. Mr. Gingrich was just the tip of the class of 1994 Republican ethics iceberg, though. Class of 94 Republican Bob Ney was indicted and went to prison on federal corruption charges. Class of 94 Republican Wes Cooley was convicted first of having lied to voters. Yes, you can be convicted for that. He was later indicted on unrelated federal money laundering and tax charges. Also classy in the class of 1994, the very famous Republican Mark Sanford, who narrowly avoided impeachment this year after having said Bill Clinton should be impeached because of Monica Lewinsky, after campaigning on his own family values and then having to admit to his own extramarital affair, which he lied about. The Republican class of 1994 also included John Ensign, also a family values campaigner, now remarkably still a senator. Mr. Ensign seen in this footage all but running away from TV producers trying to ask him about his confessed extramarital affair and the money involved in that and the criminal ethics investigations that have followed. Another Republican Revolution 1994 classmate was Mark Foley, another family values, loudly anti-gay campaigner who resigned in disgrace after his sexually aggressive text messages to underage male congressional pages were published. The holier-than-thou family values proclaiming Republican class of 1994 also included at least 3 more members of Congress who, after getting elected, divorced their wives and took up instead with people who worked for them. And even as the Republican Revolution is starting to feel like a long time ago, members of the class of 1994 are still out there, and they're still getting busted. Yesterday, yet another family values proclaiming class of 94 Republican revolutionary had to do the hypocrisy, humiliation, perp walk.
I wish I could have been a better example. I sinned against God, my wife, and my family by having a mutual relationship with a part-time member of my staff.
That's Maddow Souder, Republican congressman of Indiana's 3rd district, elected as part of the class of 1994 as a self-righteous defender of family values, which he, of course, claimed to have in spades. You see him here in this tape, for example, discussing one of his pet causes, what he sees as the imperative that there be no sex education in this country, that children be taught only that sex is to be avoided at all costs outside of marriage. The person Maddow Souder is talking to in this tape is the woman on his staff with whom he had an affair outside his own marriage.
As a member of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, you participated in an April 2008 hearing at which you were one of the only voices in the room speaking in defense of abstinence education. You've been a longtime advocate for abstinence education, and in 2006 you had your staff conduct a report entitled Abstinence and Its Critics, which discredits many claims purveyed by those who oppose abstinence education. What did you think of this hearing?
Well, I personally feel I should have probably abstained from the hearing.
Okay.
Okay. Maddow Souder doing a fake interview about his devotion to abstinence with the person on his staff with whom he cheated on his wife. If you have built your political career on denouncing other people's sexual immorality and proclaiming your own sexual morality, perhaps old hypocritical habits die hard. You saw that, I think, in Congressman Souder's angry resignation statement yesterday as he tried to portray his "I'm resigning because I've been stooping my staffer" decision as yet further evidence of his own superior family values.
In the poisonous environment of Washington, D.C., any personal failing is seized upon, twisted for political gain. I'm resigning rather than put my family through a painful, drawn-out process of which any legal question would have been clearly resolved and I would have been exonerated. But the political price to pay and the personal price of my family was not worth it. Diane and my family were more than willing to stand here with me. We're a committed family.
Maybe. In any case, it is a weird thing to bring up when you are resigning for cheating. But bragging about his family values is apparently hardwired into a politician who has built his own career on demagoguing the supposed inferiority and immorality of other people's families. Mr. Souder was a co-sponsor of the D.C. Defense of Marriage Act, which would have had the federal government reach in and stop D.C.'s local decision to recognize marriage for people like, say, me or your gay cousin, because Mark Souder maintained that government should uniquely privilege marriages like Mark Souder's.
I believe that the New Testament believes that marriage is between a man and a woman, and that when we define the marriage laws, we should speak out.
Mark Souder's website, still humiliatingly up today, says, quote, "I believe that Congress must fight to uphold the traditional values that undergird the strength of our nation. The family plays a fundamental role in our society. I am committed to preserving traditional marriage, the union of one man and one woman." And sometimes one other woman, too. Even as Mr. Souder had to announce his resignation because his own hypocrisy had become the low-hanging tree branch that smacked him in the head and knocked him off his high family values horse, even as he was making his resignation announcement, Mark Souder was still bragging about his awesome and superior values.
It has been a privilege to be part of the battle for freedom and the values we share. The ideas we advocate are still just and right. America will survive and thrive when anchored in those values. Human beings like me will fail, but our cause is greater than individuals. It is based upon eternal truths. By stepping aside, my mistake cannot be used as a political football in a partisan attempt to undermine the cause for which I have labored for my entire adult life.
Okay. The cause for which he has labored his entire adult life. The cause of claiming moral high ground for his own purported fake, just-for-show sexual morality and denigrating everybody else's. So goodbye, Mark Souder. Goodbye from Congress. Everybody hopes that your family forgives you and that her family forgives her and that it all works out okay for everyone. But as the high horse, values self-proclaiming hypocrites of the Republican Revolution class of 1994 continue to fall out into scandal and prison and the C Street House, they're making this whole Helpful Hints for Hypocrites series we're doing way too easy. First, Google yourself to remind yourself what your values are supposed to be. Second, don't sponsor legislation that denigrates other people's marriages when you're denigrating your own. Every Tuesday in some parked car or hot tub somewhere. And third, today's new addition to our Helpful Hints for Hypocrites series, don't make pro-abstinence videos with your mistress. I have a feeling there are more helpful hints to come. We will be right back.